It's time to make it, just give it a try. 'Cause you can make it like the old fat guy.
Thanks for showing up for this episode of You Can Make It. I'm David Farrell. Today I'm going to make a wonderful meal that's a real comfort food called chicken and dumplings. It's been around forever, but in the old days you used to stew a whole chicken and do a bunch of work. I've got a bit more updated, easier version. Although every time I've made this, I think about the times my wife's gone and made up a wonderful dough and steamed it. But every time she does that, I get worried. I think she's planning on dumpling me. Anyway, don't hate me, please. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by preheating a pan and putting 15 milliliters or a tablespoon of butter in it. And we'll just give that a second to melt. Okay, now that the butter's melted, I'm going to add to it 500 grams or a pound of cut up boneless, skinless chicken thighs. You can use any kind of chicken meat you want, but the skin adds more fat. I'm trying to be a little bit healthier on the wife's instructions. You can also use white meat, but I just find the chicken thighs give more flavor in this recipe. And you just want to cook them until they get a bit of color. The chicken's been cooking for just about 5 minutes, and you can see that it's not brown, but it's got some golden spots on it. That's what you're looking for. And you'll see it's forming a fond, or that brown stuff on the bottom. That's a good thing. That's going to give more flavor later. So for now, we just want to take the chicken out of the pot and set it aside. And you would normally never put chicken on one that had been in raw before, but this chicken's going to cook for 15 minutes later. So it's no problem putting it back on the same plate. Now we're just going to add 15 more milliliters of butter to what's in the pan and let it melt. $15 milliliters is 1 tablespoon of butter. And now that the butter's melted, we are going to add some vegetables to it. Some very classic vegetables for this kind of a dish. And what we have in here is 1 small carrot cut up, a little over half a cup, 1 small celery stalk, about half a cup, a small onion, about 3/4 of a cup diced, and 1 clove of garlic chopped up. And we're going to add it to the hot butter. And we're going to cook this for about 3 or 4 minutes, just until they start to get a little soft and we sweat a little bit of the moisture out of them. So this will just go for 3 or 4 more minutes. So these have been cooking just for about 2 minutes, and you'll see they're getting a little soft. The carrots are getting a nice bright color, and the onions just getting a little translucent. Excuse me, that's what we're looking for. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add 15 milliliters or 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour and 2 milliliters or a 1/3 teaspoon of thyme to the vegetables. And stir them in just for about 30 seconds to a minute, just to get them coated with the fat and the vegetables. And get the, there we go. So you can see the vegetables are all kind of gooey now from getting the flour on them. And what we're going to add to this now is 50 milliliters or a 1/4 cup of cooking sherry. And you want to stir just until that turns into a really thick, gooey mess. Just like that. And as soon as it's a thick, gooey mess, we're going to add 500 milliliters or 2 cups of chicken stock. And we're going to bring this to a boil. Now, you want to scrape up all the stuff that's stuck to the bottom of the pot. That fond, F-O-N-D, is a real source of flavor to any dish. So make sure while this is coming to a boil, you stir all that in. Scrape it all up. The stock has just started to boil. You can see bubbles coming up on it. So I'm just going to reduce the heat to a simmer. So we'll turn the heat down, and we're going to add the chicken back in and some frozen vegetables. I got about 75 milliliters or a third of a cup of frozen vegetables. You can use peas, carrots. I like green beans or string beans. Whatever kind of vegetable you like, you just want some color added to it. It's the main reason it goes in. So we'll add that to it. And we're going to put the lid on this and let it simmer for 15 minutes. See you in 15. While the stock is simmering, you can go ahead and make up your dumplings. And what I have here for the dumplings are 70 grams or 125 milliliters or a half a cup of all-purpose flour. And to that I'm going to add 15 milliliters of melted butter and 50 milliliters of chicken stock, 5 milliliters or 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 2 milliliters of poultry season or 1/3 of a teaspoon, and 1 milliliter or a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And just throw all that into a bowl and mix the stuff together. There we go. Now we just have to wait for the soup to finish simmering for 15 minutes and we can put the dumplings in with the chicken. So we'll just let the 15 minutes expire. So the chicken's been simmering in the stock for 15 minutes. Now we're just going to break this dumpling mixture up into 8 little balls of dumplings that we're going to drop just an inch or so apart into the stock. Go, and the last of the 8, and we're going to put the lid on this and we're going to let it simmer for 12 minutes to cook the dumplings. The dumplings have been cooking in the stock for 12 minutes, and now we're just going to take them off the heat so that they can set up a little bit. We're going to let them sit for 5 to 10 minutes. Just have a look at them. Oh, they look perfect, nice and rich. So we're just going to let this sit and set up. I'll see you in a few minutes. Our chicken and dumplings sat for 5 to 10 minutes just to set up a little bit. Now we, of course, have to give them a taste. So we'll just scoop a dumpling out and some of the chicken. There we go. And let's see what it's like. Dumplings are incredibly soft. As you can see, the sauce thickens up just nicely for the soup, so it's a bit more like a gravy than a soup. The dumpling is soft and silky. The chicken is incredibly tender and flavorful. The stock is rich and thickened. This is a meal that you would love on a cold day, and the best part is you can make it.
I have a good woman, I ain't good looking, but I do some cooking, I'm the old fat guy. So use that oven if you want some lovin', be like the old fat guy. like the old fat guy.